Right, today I am packing up my bag because I'm going away for a couple of days down to Kilmartin in Argyll. Now, if you remember the video that I did at my friend Jill's beautiful cottage, where we toured her cottage and she talked to us about painting, that is Kilmartin. And it's not an area of Scotland that I know very well, but since I visited Jill, I have been desperate to go back, and this is our chance. So we're going away for the weekend. And the reason that I want to go is that Kilmartin and all of that area around it is somewhere where there are a lot of standing stones and cairns, and particularly what I'm interested in is cut and stone marks, which is rock art. So this is sort of like a central area for Neolithic and Bronze Age evidence, I suppose. And this is something I've always been really interested in. When I was at primary school, I had a brilliant teacher who on Wednesday afternoons would troop us down as a class to Chambers Street Museum, the National Museum of Scotland, and she would just teach her classes there. So we would do like Egyptians and go around all of the stuffed animal bits and learn about bird song. She was a brilliant teacher, but there are a lot of really impressive artefacts from Neolithic and Bronze Age times in the National Museum's collection. And I'm wanting to now see the places, because you get all of these, well, like there are necklaces and carvings and bits of pottery and so on that you get put into cases, and there are, there's a really big effort made to interpret them for people. But these items, they're nothing without the place, and that is why I want to go to Kilmartin, as well as having, a nice weekend away, some good meals, some great walking. So yes, that's what we're doing. So I am packing up my bag. But first of all, I thought I would show you, look, my Odice waistcoat is finished. Now, this is a pattern that I have been knitting this for maybe a couple of months. And if you go back to the video that is about all of my knitting projects, that is when I had just started. And I'll put all of the details of it underneath here. It's called the Odice vest, or Odice waistcoat, bodice, Odice bodice. And it is based on a Victorian kind of corset. And I just love it. There are some things that I would change if I make it again. I think I will make it again. And I will show you what they are. So, first of all, it is made from a whole load of scrap bits of naturally dyed silk, so that is why it's kind of quite patchy. And I think that I'm probably going to change that. I'm probably going to over dye it in a darker colour, because I don't know, I think it detracts from the lines otherwise. That's what I had to hand. Second thing, I don't think that I would use silk again, because although the silk has that beautiful sheen, and I do like the way it glows underneath cardigans and things, it doesn't have stretch. So I think all of these bits are meant to have more spring and stretch. So I've kind of like made it a little bit too big for me, though I would say that this is a general problem I have always had, that I just always seem to make things too big. There's maybe a little bit of body dysmorphia going on there. Everything I make is a couple of sizes too big. And the other thing is, I think these bits are a little bit too long for me. So I would shorten the number of rows here. And when I first tried it on, the V was right down here. But I noticed that somebody else on the Ravelry page had said that they had put a ribbon right the way around the top to bring it in. So I've just used a bit of the silk yarn to kind of like thread through here. You can see it's slightly puckered, and pull it up at the back. So this is Odice, and these from last week, you remember I showed you that button. Look how wonderful these buttons look on here. So I think I will probably knit another one. I think I will knit in a good springy Shetland yarn. I've got quite a nice navy marl from the 1980s that I might try it in and see what it is. But the back, I'll show you the back. This is great kind of train knitting because it is just single rib for 40 hours, you know. So that is really, really good. So I thought I'd show you it. It's, as you can see, it is very, very wearable, but I think that I'm going to change the colour slightly. I might, at the moment, this may well change. My idea is that I will put it into a really strong bath of onion skins and then iron modify it in the hope that it will go slightly olivey green, which is a colour that I wear a lot. So that's the last month's knitting project. So I thought I'd show you as well, while I'm packing up here, two things. First is my car knitting, because obviously if you're going to be a passenger in a car driving any distance, you need to have car knitting. And this is going to be the Sophie scarf, which is a petit knit pattern. As you can see, it's a very, very simple pattern. But if I've seen something somewhere and it's an independent designer, rather than copy, I would rather pay £3.50 and get the pattern and actually honour their work, rather than just going, oh, I think I know how they did it. So this is going to be a scarf. It's going to be one of those very sort of skinny scarves that's like part bandana. I really like wearing scarves, so I'm knitting this, and I'm probably going to knit another couple for a couple of friends who I think would find these really, really useful. This is a cone of cashmere. Again, it's probably 1980s, and it doesn't take very much to knit up this scarf. So this is what I'm going to be knitting in the car. And the other thing that I'm taking is this. Now this is something that was half made when I was on the class with India, and it was made from, you might have seen in the video, the sort of square block patchworks that we did, and we did them and we felted them and we sewed them up into this kind of vessel. Now it's meant to be, I think, a bag. This is not finished. I'm going to say this is in its kind of like quite fugly state, and these bits are all appliqued, but in some ways I quite like the lining, which is just silk, and I like the way that it all puckered up with the shibori felt making. My idea is that, well, I do something about the neck, but that I make this into something that is inspired by the standing stones and inspired by the cup and ring marks. And I have my my tin of embroidery silks here, which are all dyed with plants from my garden, and are kind of, for me, these are really imbued with a sense of place from here, and this is imbued with the sense of our Tornish and Lochaline, and I want to mix these all together because they're all different aspects of Scotland. So I'm just going to take this and kind of play with it, I think, and have a look at cup and ring marks. So the rest of this video is going to be going to visit Kilmartin and seeing the stones and seeing the cairns, but I'd be very, very surprised if it becomes a kind of a guide to Kilmartin. There are lots of really good guides on YouTube to all of the different cairns and standing stones and so on. And I will put all of the links to them underneath here so you can go and check them out. For me, this video is going to be about really taking time out from my schedule and giving myself some time to take things in and to spend time with Ewan and the dogs and explore a part of the country that I don't know, and also to allow myself to take artistic inspiration from it. So I hope that you enjoy coming along, but if you're wanting all of the details of history, I'll put some links underneath. So the area that I'm going to be visiting is called Argyll and Bute, and there you can see Britain, and the little black dot is where I'm going. And I think you can see quite how kind of watery an area is. And if we come down here, this is Kilmartin, where the museum is, and you can see that there is this line of cairns coming all the way down here. But you can also see, hopefully, that there are lots and lots of cup and ring marks, things all the way around this area, and that is where I'm going to go. So here I am in Argyll and Bute, and I'm based around Kilmartin Glen, which is where there is this collection of just amazingly preserved Neolithic, Bronze Age artefacts, bases, burial cairns, standing stones, rock art. In the area there have been recorded 800 works of Neolithic, Bronze Age art, which is just astounding. So I came down to see these in kind of this time of year, which is quite quiet and misty, and where it's getting dark, there is this sort of much more closeness to times past. So we arrived yesterday and we went to the Kilmartin Museum, which is kind of like an interpretation site for the whole area, and it tries to put things into context, to show you the artefacts that were found in burial kists, for example, to put them into a timeline and to try and sort out the overlapping centuries, millennia, where these things were being used. And then we went for a walk along the Kilmartin Glen, where there are a series of burial cairns. And these would have had a central, maybe 2 or 3 kists made out of wood or stone. Some of the stone ones survive, which would have been like coffins, and people were buried in them in kind of like a fetal position, and they would have been buried along with some beakers with food and drink for the afterlife, presumably. And these are in a row going along this long glen, and there are also standing stones there at the end. But to be honest, these cairns, they look a bit like somebody has left great big 3-metre high piles of building materials. But when you get up to that, you realise the amount of work that must have gone on to bring all of these round cobbles. They're not being found in the kind of surrounding grass and piled up. These have been deliberately brought, and that is what just I found amazing, that these thousands and thousands and thousands of cobbles have been brought to bury people. And also the fact that it was done over hundreds of years, there is this kind of memory in place. And when you look from one to the other, because you can see them in a great big string along the glen, it is really very powerful. And they're looked after by what used to be Historic Scotland. It's got a different name now. So there are good panels there. There's really good access. There is this nice balance between letting people see them and also protecting the monuments. And then when you come to the end, well, second last of the cairns, you've got these beautiful standing stones. And part of what attracts me is that you don't know what they're for. You can make guesses. There are cosmological kind of connections. If you stand in one set of standing stones, you look over towards the other one while you've got the midwinter setting sun. It sets behind one of the standing stones. But realistically, do we know? Do we know? And that for me is part of the magic, because this is a going back to, these would have been our, indigenous ancestors, and we know nothing about what the things that are left, what the material goods that are left were. So today I am here in the middle of a wood to look at some amazing rock art, and this is cup and ring rock art. It's really, really common throughout Scotland, Ireland, and this is sort of like North Atlantic things down to Portugal, I think. And it is marks on rock outcrops made with quartz stone and pecked into the rock to make like depressions, which are called the cups, and then around them there are rings. Sometimes there are spirals. It's slow work. It was done with quartz rather than with some kind of more effective stone. So there is the kind of like why. And one of the videos that I watched before coming here said that if you like are banging quartz, it glows. And also that the person who is doing the sculpting, or no, it's not carving with this, is going to be covered in all of these little sort of glowing sparks. So maybe that is, hello Dixie, maybe that is, part of the performance. You have your glowing stones and you have this kind of like aura of creating something. So these ones are all on an outcrop which looks over an amazing valley. So it would have been an existing outcrop of rock, but in a very important place. It wouldn't have been surrounded by the trees. You'd have had these wonderful views right down to the water, and there are spirals and the marks. It's like a cosmology of things, and there are many, many theories that we have laid on top of this as to what it means. Is it a map of the universe? Is it predicting eclipses? Is it some kind of family tree? Is it to do with human sacrifice? Is it a map? Who knows? We certainly don't. And that, I think, is the magic of it. So I hope that that gave you just a tiny glimpse of the amazing Neolithic and early Bronze Age art that is in Argyll and Bute. Because the thing is that I find it amazing. We were there on a beautiful November weekend. You know, it's a wonderful time to visit the west of Scotland anyway, because there's no midges, but also the colours are beautiful and you get these mill pond lochs, and it's a wonderful time of year. But we were there pretty much on our own. The rock art, that's, less than a quarter of a mile from a big car park, we were the only people there. Only people there. We didn't see anybody else. And even the standing stones, which you can see from a main road, in which there's again a car park and you walk 100 yards across a field, there was only 3 people that we saw all afternoon. I mean, if you compare that to Stonehenge, which, is just so many people, or even, in Skye or in Orkney, the amazing experience of being somewhere that meant something 5,000 years ago and has survived, even though we don't know what it meant, and to experience that on your own in quiet and mists. Anyway, it was amazing. Now, I know that I haven't gone into all of the sort of details of each of the sites, and that's because other people have done that extremely well, and I'm going to link them underneath this video. So if you're interested in knowing what is in each of the cairns, or if you're interested in knowing about the standing stones or the rock art and them being mapped out and that kind of thing, go and have a look at one of those videos, because they are exceptionally well done. The thing that I have, or 2 things I've taken away from this. The first one is this really interesting idea that the rock art was made not with an easily available and really hard stone, but with quartz. So I have got myself a couple of bits of quartz, and tomorrow night, which will be tonight when you're watching this video, or maybe sometime in the past when you're watching this video, but it'll be tonight if you're watching on the day that I upload, it is a full moon. And on full moons, what I do is I do a little kind of fire ceremony where I deliberately shed things which are not useful in my life. It might be old beliefs, it might be things that have been said that were hurtful, it might be all kinds of things. And I do myself just a very, very simple full moon ceremony. But tonight, to try out this idea that the quartz was chosen because it glows when you hit it and there's also a distinctive smell, that's what I'm going to be doing. So they are my bits of quartz. And the other thing that I did was I started making this vessel. Now, you might remember at the beginning of the video, it had a handle and this bit was all raggy things. But what I've started to do is I finished off the neck. I took the handle off. I may put a handle back on. I haven't decided yet. But then I've just started to make these cup and ring marks all over it. I'm going to do a blog post and maybe another little video clip about this for Studio Club members. And I'll link to the Studio Club underneath it here. Studio Club is my creative membership, and we do creative classes right the way through, and then I will occasionally, maybe once a month or so, do a special blog which will have extra content which links often to these videos. So that's what I will be doing with this. Studio Club costs £9.95 a month, and there are also supported places available, and you can get all of the details in the description underneath that. So that is me, a very long video today, and I do hope that you enjoyed it and that it brought some of the magic of the west coast of Scotland to you. And until next Friday, bye bye.